All right, it is 4 o'clock, and I'm calling the Finance Technology Committee meeting to order. Have myself, Kathy Payne, and Kathy Dunn are the three members. Before we get into the budget, just real quickly, there was an assignment for removing unnecessary appropriations and transferring cash to cover year-end expenditures. I forwarded that to the law director as committee chair because it's something we do at the end of every year. Everybody has a copy in front of them. The numbers have changed just slightly from what I sent forward, so I'll let Crystal just talk real quick on that.
This is an ordinance that we do every year to unappropriate money to make sure that we don't have expenses without the revenue side to cover those expenditures. So, for example, the first item listed is for street construction. We have we're going to unappropriate $749,000. That's money that's currently on the expense line that we're not going to spend. So we want to take that off the line. And then that money will be used next year. And that has been incorporated into the budget. A portion of it has. A lot of this is grant stuff. So if you look down at HUD, it shows $15,286 that's unappropriated. Those expenditures will be spent next year. But since we don't have the revenue because it's a drawdown, we want to make sure we take the expense off the book so that we were not shown an expense with no revenue. That is the concept of them. Some of them that aren't supported by grants, I just took them off the books. There may be the revenue there to support it, but just so we don't show large expenditures there, I just took those off. The main changes were to the HUD account. There was a change there. It was just a slight change. When they did the drawdown, they drew from a different line than what they had originally told me they were going to draw from. So I just had to adjust those numbers. And then I did increase the cash transfer at the end. We do cash transfers at the end of the year if necessary to make sure that none of the funds end in negative cash. A lot of this is just to be on the safe side. A lot of this money will be reimbursed to the general fund once we receive grant money. So, for example, if you look at the last one, the 36105, that is actually the ACGP grant. That was to pay for insurance. The city paid for that insurance, and then we are getting reimbursed for that. So once we get reimbursed for that, that money will go back. The same for the CDS fund, the one before that. So, like I said, this is something that we do every year just to make sure we close the books with the appropriate dollar amounts there. Any questions on that?
Okay, and then, like I said, that was something that I forwarded as committee chair to get the process going, hoping I could get it on the special meeting, but I think it's going to drag out and won't be at first read till the 22nd. So, so that kind of concludes that portion. Now we'll go into 25071, which is the ordinance to establish the calendar year 2026 operating budget. Crystal and I have talked a lot over the last week. The general fund, when it comes to personnel, we did find there was some extra money still in fringes for city council. We moved that to police salaries. We moved a little bit of money from fire salaries to police salaries. So at the beginning of the year, the concept is that we go in budgeting one less in police and one less in fire than what we currently have budgeted this year. And then once we get the carry forward funds and we know what we've got, we'll go back in and reappropriate one additional position in each one of those departments. So any questions on that portion of it? That was easy. All right. Next portion is the capital budget. Crystal and I worked through a lot of the things on that, and Crystal did a deep dive into that, and I'll kind of give the short version, and Crystal can maybe explain it a little bit better. But so in the safety and Parks and Rec, where we have dedicated capital funds voted on by the residents, by the citizens of Chiillicothe, if we could not confirm that those were capital expenditures, or we knew that they were not capital expenditures, those were moved out, and we will come back after the first of the year and relook at those. And if they're capital, we can put them back into capital. If they're not, then we can look at adding them as a general fund item once we have the funds to do that. In the general fund area and in the enterprise funds, which are the water treatment, wastewater treatment, any of those areas that could not confirm that they were capital purchases, she was able to move a lot of those into just kept, because it's general fund money. that then they convert into capital. She just kept it in general fund money to make sure that we're not using capital money for non-capital expenditures. That's kind of the short version. I'll let Crystal kind of explain a little bit more.
So that is exactly what I would say in total. So there's a few things I will email this out to you so you can see a bigger version of it. I'm going to send you the new ordinance, a copy of the new capital list, and then I'll send you what's up there on the screen, which will show you what was originally sent. I've crossed out and then put notes next to it of what we've done. So just for example, the first item was miscellaneous repairs, and that is something that we've budgeted every single year, and usually it's 25,000. This year we dropped it to 20. But I did, because I was already included in the general fund, go ahead and move that to a non-capital item. Now, a lot of times when people put miscellaneous repairs, they will give a breakout that will tell me if they're true capital or not. And if I didn't have that, I did move it. And I want everyone to understand it. Just because it's in the capital line, if they submit something that turns out not to be capital, we do not allow that payment to go through. Also, when the auditors come in, they will let us know if something's not capital and reallocate it to the proper place. But going forward, we are working on like a better capital policy to make sure that everyone understands, and this won't happen again, like exactly what needs to be included and not included. And then we're going to ask for a lot more detail and breakout. So they can't put just a big lump sum miscellaneous in there. But that one was not taken out of the budget. It was just moved to the public lands and building account. And in that note column, I've put where I've moved money. Same with municipal court building. There were some items there because that's its own fund and it was already accounted for in the total expense and revenue. I just had to reallocate that to a different line number and took that out of capital. Let's see, going on down for street and signs. Prior to this, it said like miscellaneous equipment. It was truly street signs, so I changed that so that way we'll have that money available to buy street signs. That's something that we'll probably need from day one. Scrolling on down, I did confirm that there is a $4,000 vehicle that they want to buy for traffic for our meter officer. That will be just a used vehicle from ODOT. If we don't spend that money, it'll just get reinvested back in to that fund. I think he's got a used vehicle now, but it's in really bad shape. Then moving down to the safety levy capital, I did remove the maintenance fees that were included in the police side. Those are two items that we'll have to come back and reappropriate at the beginning of the year because moving those funds would be moving it to a completely different, we'd be moving it to the general fund. So those two items we will revisit at the beginning of the year. And same with the fire department. They had 10,000 in lands and buildings. I was able to get a better breakdown of the detail of that. 45,000 will be revisited, and I left 5,500 in there for repaving of the apron, which is like the area where the trucks pull in and out. So that's something that would be a capital item. So half of it was capital, half of it wasn't. The landfill is more of a maintenance item, so I did move that out, and that's included in the budget. It just got moved to a non-capital account. And then the biggest hit where you'll see is the Parks and Rec capital. All of those items will be revisited at the beginning of the year, and then we can decide then if we want to take it out of the general fund or take it out of the parks operating. It doesn't really matter because parks can't really afford that, so we'd have to do a transfer anyway from the general fund. So the location of it will either be general fund or Parks and Rec capital. But all those items are going to be moved and revisited. And then moving down into the water and sewer department, if I didn't have classification, those were just moved to whatever department it was to miscellaneous repairs and a non-capital account. And then if it wasn't a non-capital account, it would have been moved to outside contracts. So any questions on that? I will tell you, I did meet with Robin, who does our compilation from Melhuff Stang. They also do our audit. Her and I went through a lot of these items together, and agreed that these were probably the best action steps to take. So she did confirm that. And we still have a balanced budget. Any questions?
Okay, so I think we were able to clean it up, and like Crystal said, they're going to do a policy on what's capital, what's not, to kind of help make sure that we're continue to do things in the right way moving forward into the future. So if there's no questions, I think we answered all the questions that we had. I'll make a motion that we approve the budget as presented by the city auditor, second by Kathy Payne, and I vote yes.
Yes. Yes.
That motion carries, and that will go forward to the law director. We have special meetings scheduled for tomorrow. That the goal is to have this on there along with the street levy and
Payroll.
payroll. And I'll let, do you want to talk about that at all, Kevin?
Just that it'll be at 5 o'clock tomorrow here, and the mayor sent out the special meeting notice, so that's already been handled, and so we'll see you at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
All right, that concludes Finance Committee. Thank you all.